Have you ever wondered what happens when a military stops fighting the enemy's weapons and starts fighting the very earth they are made from? In the dead of night, the sky over the Persian Gulf tore open, not with the sound of falling bombs, but with the quiet, calculated erasure of a nation's ability to wage war for the next decade. Before we dive into the shadows of this massive operation, do me a quick favor. If you want to see the world's hidden conflicts decoded without the usual media spin, hit that subscribe button, drop a like to feed the algorithm, and share this with a friend who loves deep geopolitical dives. Let's build the smartest community on YouTube. Just before the sun crept over the horizon in southwestern Iran, a series of massive explosions shattered the morning silence. The target was not a standard military base. It was not a hidden bunker buried deep inside a mountain. The target was the Bandar Mahshahr Petrochemical complex. To the untrained eye, this looks like just another industrial accident in a region full of them. But Bandar Mahshahr is not a random collection of pipes and storage tanks. It is one of the most critical chemical production hubs on the entire planet. It sits right at the top of the Persian Gulf, a sprawling maze of refineries and processing plants. When the Israeli Air Force confirmed the strike, they did not hide behind vague statements or tentative claims. They owned it completely. They stated clearly that the Mahshahr complex, along with several other sites across the Khuzestan province, was deliberately targeted. Khuzestan is the industrial heartbeat of southwestern Iran. It borders Iraq, and it is home to the very infrastructure that keeps the Iranian war machine running. But to understand why this specific factory was turned into a burning crater, we have to look at the exact sequence of events that led to this moment. Timing is everything in modern warfare. This strike did not happen in a vacuum. It was the direct result of a massive miscalculation by Iranian leadership just 24 hours earlier. The day before, Israel had launched a precision strike against Hezbollah positions in the southern suburbs of Beirut. Iran had publicly promised that any attack on Lebanon would be met with a devastating direct response from Tehran. They warned the world. They drew a line in the sand. And then they tried to cross it. The Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps launched a massive barrage of roughly 30 ballistic missiles aimed directly at Israel. They claimed they were targeting major air bases near Nazareth and sending a message straight to the doors of Tel Aviv. But here is the reality of what actually happened when those missiles crossed the border. Almost all of them were intercepted. The few that slipped through the defensive net fell into open areas, causing absolutely zero damage to critical infrastructure or civilian populations. Iran emptied its silos, fired 30 of its most advanced ballistic missiles, and the physical result on the ground was practically nothing. Think about the sheer weight of that failure. We are not just talking about the financial cost of those missiles, though that number is in the hundreds of millions of dollars. We are talking about strategic credibility. Iran's entire defense strategy, its entire ability to project power across the Middle East, relies on one simple promise. They promise their enemies that their missile arsenal is simply too big, too fast, and too deadly to be stopped. When 30 missiles result in zero meaningful damage, that promise shatters. The illusion of invincibility vanishes in the morning light. Imagine the scene inside the Iranian command bunkers. The screens show the missiles crossing the border. The operators expect to see explosions, fires, and chaos on the Israeli news feeds. Instead, they see nothing. They see the interceptors lighting up the night sky, swatting away their ultimate deterrent like insects. The silence from Israel is deafening. It is a psychological blow that no amount of state media propaganda can fix, and Israel saw that moment of weakness with absolute clarity. They realized that the Iranian shield was not as impenetrable as the world believed, so Israel decided to teach a lesson that could not be ignored. But they did not just launch a random retaliatory strike. They executed a masterclass in modern aerial warfare. The response came in highly coordinated, perfectly timed waves. The very first wave of the attack did not go after the factories or the missile launchers. It went after the eyes and ears of the Iranian military. Israel systematically hunted down and destroyed the air defense systems that Iran had spent months rebuilding. This sequence is the most critical part of the entire operation. You never attack the main prize first. You strip away the armor protecting the prize. You blind the enemy before you deliver the final blow. Only after the radars were silenced and the surface-to-air missile sites were reduced to rubble did the heavy bombers move in. This tells us everything we need to know. This was not a reactive, emotional decision made in the heat of the moment. This was a cold, calculated, pre-planned operation. Israel had the target lists ready, they had the suppression routes mapped out. They were just waiting for the perfect launch window. Let's pause for a second and test your strategic thinking. If you were commanding this operation, would you have struck the petrochemical plant on the very first day, or would you have waited to blind the enemy's air defenses first? Drop your tactical choice in the comments below. I read every single comment, and I want to see how our community thinks under pressure. If you are enjoying this deep dive into military strategy, make sure you are subscribed because we break down the world's most complex conflicts every single week. Now let us talk about the machines that made this impossible mission possible. The technology deployed in this strike was nothing short of revolutionary. Israel almost certainly used a deadly combination of two specific fighter jets, the F-15I Strike Eagle and the F-35I Adir. These are not just two different planes. They are two completely different tools designed for two completely different jobs. To understand how they work together, you have to understand their individual strengths. The F-15E is a heavy, twin-engine workhorse. It is a two-seat aircraft. The pilot sits in the front, flying the plane, while a dedicated weapons systems officer sits in the back, managing the massive payload of munitions. This jet is essentially a flying bomb truck. It can carry an enormous amount of standoff weapons. Standoff weapons are crucial here. They allow the jet to release its payload from dozens of miles away, meaning the aircraft never actually has to fly directly over the most heavily defended, most dangerous parts of Iranian airspace. The weapons officer programs the coordinates of the target before the jet even leaves the ground. For a massive, fixed facility like the Mahshahr Petrochemical Complex, the coordinates have been locked in for years. The F-15I just needs to get close enough to pull the trigger. But there is a massive problem. The F-15I is a fourth-generation fighter. It is large, it is loud, and it is highly visible on radar. It is essentially a flying billboard to enemy sensors. It cannot simply fly into Iranian airspace unprotected. Iran has spent years building a dense, layered network of air defenses. They have integrated advanced systems with electro-optical tracking. These systems are specifically designed to hunt down non-stealth aircraft. If the F-15 is flying alone, they will be painted by enemy radars, tracked by multiple frequencies, and targeted by a swarm of surface-to-air missiles. That is exactly where the F-35I Adir comes into play. The F-35 is not just an airplane, it is a flying supercomputer. It is a fifth-generation stealth fighter designed to be virtually invisible to traditional radar systems. In this operation, the F-35S flew ahead of the F-15Is, acting as the tip of the spear. But they were not just hiding, they were hunting. The F-35 is equipped with an incredibly advanced sensor suite. It flies with its radar turned off to maintain its stealth profile. Instead, it uses passive sensors. It simply listens, it watches. It absorbs the electromagnetic radiation bouncing around the airspace. Here is the brilliant, deadly dynamic of this tactic. The Iranian air defense operators are sitting in their bunkers, staring at their screens, looking for the incoming F-15s. They cannot see the F-35s, but they know the F-15s are coming. So, they make a fatal decision. They turn on their targeting radars to try and lock onto the heavy bombers. The moment an Iranian radar turns on, it broadcasts a massive, unmistakable electronic signal. It essentially screams its location to the world. The passive sensors on the F-35 instantly pick up that signal. The F-35 calculates the exact geographic location of the radar. It then instantly transmits those coordinates back to the F-15s flying safely behind them. The F-15S then fire anti-radiation missiles. These are specialized weapons designed to home in on the electronic emissions of the enemy radar. The Iranian operators turn on their radars to protect themselves, and in doing so, they paint a massive target on their own heads. The very system designed to defend the factory becomes the first thing destroyed. It is a perfect, inescapable trap. The system that was supposed to protect the facility is the first thing eliminated. We are about to uncover the real reason this strike changes the global balance of power, and it has nothing to do with the explosions you see on the news. If you want to understand the hidden mechanics of global conflicts before the mainstream media even figures out what happened, you need to be part of our inner circle. Hit that subscribe button right now, turn on the notification bell, and share this video with someone who always asks you what is really going on in the world. Let's keep unlocking these secrets together. This brings us to the most important question of the entire conflict. Why was the Mahshahr petrochemical plant the ultimate target? Why not just keep hitting missile launchers? The answer lies in a fundamental truth of warfare that many people overlook. A missile launcher without a missile is just a very expensive truck. You can destroy every single launch vehicle Iran has, and they will simply pull more trucks out of a garage and paint them green. The true danger of Iran's military is not the truck. It is the missile itself. And building a modern ballistic missile is not like building a simple explosive. It requires highly complex, highly specialized chemical engineering. Missiles need advanced propellant to reach their targets. They need explosive warheads. They need specific chemical precursors and feedstocks that are processed in massive industrial facilities. The Mahshahr complex is exactly that kind of facility. It is a dual-use petrochemical plant. It produces the civilian chemicals the Iranian economy needs, but it also produces the exact chemical building blocks required to manufacture solid rocket fuel for ballistic missiles. When Israel bombed Mahshahr, they did not just destroy a factory. They attacked the production rate of the Iranian missile program. Think of it like a blacksmith forging swords for an army. If you destroy the swords the army is holding, the blacksmith can just melt down scrap metal and forge new ones. The army is rearmed in a matter of days. But if you bomb the blacksmith's forge, destroy the anvils, and burn the coal, the army is left with nothing. It does not matter how many soldiers you have if they have no weapons. Iran has been firing missiles throughout this entire conflict. Every single time they launch a volley, they are drawing down a finite stockpile. Replacing those missiles takes months, sometimes years, of continuous industrial production, and rebuilding a highly specialized chemical plant is not as simple as stacking bricks. It requires calibrated machinery, specialized engineering knowledge, and a supply chain that is currently under severe stress. When you destroy the core processing units of a petrochemical plant, you are not just losing a building, you are losing years of institutional knowledge and irreplaceable hardware. And this is where the strategic trap completely snaps shut. Iran cannot simply buy the chemicals they need on the open market to replace what was destroyed in Mahshar. The United States naval blockade, which remains strictly enforced, has completely choked off Iran's ability to import the necessary raw materials. The blockade is not just a military formation of ships, it is a suffocating economic weapon. It stops the tankers, it scares away the buyers, it freezes the bank accounts. Think about the average citizen in Iran. They are not the ones launching missiles, but they are the ones standing in line for basic goods. They are the ones watching their life savings evaporate as the currency plummets. Every single day the blockade remains in place, Iran's foreign currency reserves drain away. The domestic economy crumbles under the weight of inflation and scarcity. The regime relies on oil money to pay its military, to fund its proxies, and to keep its own people in check. When the oil stops flowing, the checkbook closes. And when the checkbook closes, the loyalty of the military and the patience of the public begin to fracture. The Iranian leadership is facing an impossible, agonizing dilemma. If they fire more missiles to show strength, they burn through their remaining stockpile, a stockpile they now lack the industrial capacity to replenish. If they stop firing and accept a ceasefire under the current conditions, they look weak to their own people and their regional proxies. They admit that 100 days of conflict left them in a worse position than when they started. There is no clean way out. There is no painless option. The strike on Mahshar was not just a tactical victory, it was a strategic checkmate. It shifted the entire doctrine of the conflict. For the first 100 days, the goal was to suppress the launchers. Today, the goal shifted to destroying the ability to build new launchers. That is a profound, historic shift in military strategy. It changes the math of the entire war. But while the world's eyes are glued to the burning smoke over the Persian Gulf, a completely different, equally dangerous game is being played in the shadows of the Pacific Ocean. Superpowers never act in isolation. They are always watching. They are always testing. And right now, China is watching the Middle East very closely. While the United States and Israel are deeply engaged in this complex aerial and naval campaign against Iran, the Chinese military has dramatically increased its operations near Taiwan. In a period that perfectly coincides with the peak intensity of the Israel-Iran strikes, Beijing deployed dozens of military aircraft into the airspace surrounding the island. Some analysts argue this is just a routine exercise on China's normal calendar. Others argue it is a highly deliberate, opportunistic move. The logic is simple. When the United States military is forced to focus its intelligence, its naval assets, and its diplomatic attention on the Middle East, its attention in the Pacific is divided. China wants to see how the U.S. manages multiple crises at once. They want to test the limits of American bandwidth. But the most alarming development is not just the fighter jets. It is the coordination between the Chinese military and the Chinese Coast Guard. For the first time, observers have tracked a highly synchronized pattern of military aircraft, Coast Guard vessels, and specialized survey ships operating together near the outer islands of Taiwan. This is a classic gray zone tactic. It is activity that falls just below the threshold of open war. The survey ships are not just sailing around. They are mapping the ocean floor. They are measuring water depths, tracking ocean currents, and analyzing the composition of the seabed. This is the exact data required to plan a massive amphibious invasion. China can claim these are just civilian research vessels doing legitimate scientific work, but when they are escorted by warships and coordinated with fighter jets, the message is unmistakable. They are rehearsing. They are preparing. The ambiguity is the weapon. It forces the defenders to constantly react, constantly scramble, constantly spend resources without ever giving them a clear justification to fire back. It is a slow, methodical tightening of the noose, executed in plain sight while the rest of the world looks the other way. We are reaching the end of this deep dive, but the story is far from over. If this analysis has given you a clearer picture of the hidden forces shaping our world, I have a final request. Take a moment to share this video with your family or your colleagues. The more people who understand these global dynamics, the better prepared we all are for the future. Hit that like button to support the channel, and leave a comment telling me which global flashpoint you want us to investigate next. Your curiosity drives this entire channel, and your engagement ensures we can keep bringing you the truth. This brings us back to the central, inescapable reality of the modern Middle East. The strike on the Mahshar petrochemical complex is not an isolated event. It is a glaring spotlight on the future of warfare. It proves that in a prolonged conflict, the ultimate victory does not go to the side that fires the most missiles. It goes to the side that can sustain the industrial and economic will to keep fighting. Israel has successfully shifted the battlefield from the sky to the factory floor. They have forced Iran into a corner where every choice leads to a deeper crisis. Whether this immense pressure forces a genuine, lasting diplomatic deal, or whether it triggers a prolonged, grinding war of attrition, remains to be seen. But one thing is absolutely certain. The rules of engagement have changed forever. The world is watching, the pieces are moving, and the next move could reshape the global order for the next 50 years. Stay vigilant, stay informed, and never stop questioning the narrative.